With the time being 7:45 on Monday, September 15th, I'd like to call the Government Operations Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Fokaitis.
Here.
Folks.
Here.
Bungard.
Here.
Munns.
Here.
Spellman.
Here.
Gam. Petrilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here. Wonderful. Thank you very much. We have one item for omnibus, so I'm looking for a motion and a second for that.
So moved.
Moved by Folks, seconded by Bongard. Roll call, please.
Bessner.
Yes.
Fokaitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Bungard.
Yes.
Munns.
Yes.
Spellman.
Yes.
Petrilla. Wirball.
Yes.
Great, that item motion carries. So first up, we have item 5A. Derek Conley is going to be making a presentation about amending ordinance for, oh gosh, lots of different things, vehicles and traffic and rules of the road. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, to put it simply, this is a presentation or an ordinance essentially updating our bike policy. This is something that has been discussed in St. Charles and all over Chicagoland this past year. Essentially, there's been a rise in complaints from residents about e-bikes, and I'll use quotations when I say e-bikes on the sidewalks creating a hazardous condition. Simply put, there's just an increase in usage of these bikes or other micro-mobility devices. Not making that phrase up, micro-mobility devices is a new phrase. It essentially means bikes, e-bikes, e-motos, scooters, things of that nature. They're essentially more prevalent in essentially everywhere because they're more accessible commercially. They're reliable and they're affordable mobility options for people. The mission of the bike policy simply is to increase cyclist and pedestrian safety while also remaining a bike-friendly community, which we think is important. Key considerations when going through this, number one, we are essentially following state law. There is already some regulations out there. They're existing, and we're basically reflecting what that state law is. And then we are also following RIDE Illinois recommendations. So there is some discretion that municipalities do get with bike regulations. And we did lean heavily on RIDE Illinois, which is a nonprofit that advocates for bikers and pedestrians. And they did actually a really great job this past year as far as providing guidance to municipalities. So they had a couple of workshops. They also have a whole web page that essentially laid out everything very simply put, and we followed their guidelines very closely. And then lastly, I just want to mention that not everything is in this bike policy. There are also things that are covered in the motor vehicle code, so that still applies. Going to get into just a few of the definitions here. Number one, e-bikes. So this would be bikes that have electric motors less than 750 watts. There are three different classes. You see the three classes there. Essentially, class 1 to class 3, you basically have more power and you have more ability to get up to a faster speed. All of these bikes those are actually real bikes, those photos up there of what the class is. It's hard to tell exactly what type of e-bike it is, but if you do look, when a bike is sold that's an e-bike, it should have a class sticker on it so you can easily identify which type it is. E-motos. I do want to focus on these because, as I said, we do get a lot of complaints from residents about e-bikes, but to be honest, they're not actually e-bikes when we get a lot of those complaints. I mean, sometimes they are, but largely they are e-motos. And that's because I think that the public yet isn't quite familiar. They are electronic or electric motors, so I think they just call them e-bikes because that's simply put. But e-motors are almost entirely different just in their power. So they have motors that are greater than 750 watts. They're capable of reaching speeds over 20 miles an hour without pedaling. These are some of the options, or not options, but examples up here. You can see the one on the left-hand side. That looks like a bike. Someone who wasn't familiar with it would call that an e-bike, but then you do have others that are essentially kind of motorcycle looking, but they're electric. So these also do include the mini e-motos. So I did put a photo on there. These are kind of just essentially small motorcycles, but you'll see full adults on them. There are other devices that are included in the policy. I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but it does include other definitions for gas-powered bicycles, motor-assisted bicycles, mopeds, which are actually not micro-mobility devices, but actually vehicles in themselves, and then scooters. There are two categories for scooters, high speed and low speed. Essentially, the break point is 10 miles an hour. If it goes higher than 10 miles an hour, then it's considered to be a high-speed electric scooter. I will warn you that I have seen some of these definitions get confused. Some people just call low-speed electric scooters ones that go over 20 miles an hour. I think that this is just kind of everyone's trying to figure this out, so they're using kind of different definitions. But this is how we define these two types of scooters.
Derek?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I saw that you raised your hand. Are you having trouble hearing, or did you need something?
No, I had a question, but I can hang on till the time's right.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry,
Thank
Derek,
you.
go ahead.
No problem. So again, this policy largely reflects existing state laws. Just want to make that clear. To be clear, bikes do have a right to be on the road, but they are also responsible for the duties of a driver. So you can be on a road, but you still have to comply with the Illinois Vehicle Code, and there are specific regulations for bikes. Not going to go through these in detail, but state laws that are incorporated into this: clinging to vehicles, riding in groups, how you turn, reflectors. That is, again, state law. And those are all outlined in the Illinois Bicycle Rules of the Road 2025. The Illinois state, they come up with a new document every year that kind of gives updated law changes on that. First, I want to cover non-motorized bikes. So this would just be your traditional bikes that doesn't have a motor. So to be clear, with this policy, they would be allowed to ride on sidewalks. That is the recommendation coming from Ride Illinois. But that is with the exception of our downtown area. So you see on the right-hand side there, we have a map. That is our downtown overlay district. If a bike were to enter this area on a sidewalk, they would have a few options. One, they could get on one of our bike lanes or sharrows. They could ride on the road, but they could not ride on the sidewalk, and that goes for any bike at all. Their other option would be to dismount and walk it. So this is a heavily trafficked area, not just for motorists, but a lot of pedestrians walking around. Staff just doesn't feel that this area is really safe when you have that many people trying to fit in one area. So I created this chart, and this is something that I'm not going to go through all of these different boxes here, but I did highlight the ones in particular that I think are of interest here. So basically, you have the roads being different types of micromobility devices, and then you have different platforms of which you can ride on, so sidewalks, bike lanes, side paths, and roads. So just starting with sidewalks, you can, again, ride non-motorized bicycles on sidewalks, and then low-speed electric scooters. These would be electric scooters that go under 10 miles an hour. Honestly, these are typically for kids. But as you move to bike lane, I should actually say, as you look at the other devices, the e-bikes, the e-motos, the mopeds, the low-speed gas bicycles, and the high-speed electric scooters, those would not be permitted on the sidewalks. Okay. And again, that is per the recommendation of Ride Illinois. As you move farther to the right, when you get in bike lanes, side paths, and roads, there are a lot more options for these vehicles to be on there. So an e-bike of any type would stick to bike lanes and side paths and roads. And then, of course, put some photos up there of what each one of those types of means of passage is. A few items that I want to point out. There are 4 state laws that I want to point out, and as I've looked at social media from other municipalities who have posted, there have been some complaints or some confusion, and these are some of the ones that I've found that people are upset about, and they're actually state laws. So Class 3 e-bicycles, you must be 16 years of age to actually use one of these bicycles, because they do get up to 28 miles an hour and they should be on the road. Mopeds, again, these are not micro-mobility devices. These are vehicles, so you have to be 16 years old and you have to have a driver's license. High-speed electric scooters, and I just put the low in there just so we understand. I'm talking about the high ones, the ones that can go over 10 miles an hour. Some of them can get up to 35 miles an hour. You must be at least 18 years of age and have a valid driver's license. Why it's 18 and not 16, I'm not really sure, but that is the state law. And then high-speed electric scooters, and this is true for a couple of devices, but these should not be on highways, even though they can technically be on roads. They should not be on highways that go faster than 35 miles an hour as a speed limit. There is one city requirement that I did put in this policy that is not required by the state, and that is all pedal vehicles, which is the technical term we use for essentially all of these devices, must have some type of bell on them. Given the complaints that we're getting with bicycles on our sidewalks or on our side paths, we should be having the equipment on there so that people can be notified if there's a bike approaching them from behind. With that in mind, speaking with the Business Alliance, every year they do come up with kind of a marketing push for different things. So we do have things like last year was the First Street Plaza, things like that. Before it's been health and wellness. Next year they want to do bikeability. So one of the things that they're looking at doing is purchasing kind of like for their giveaways is bike bells. Given the requirement, we think this would kind of go hand in hand, that if people didn't want to purchase one, they could get one. I think it would have the Business Alliance logo on it. When it comes to penalties, it would be an escalating penalty structure. So first offense would be $25, then $50 for a second, and then $100 for a third. Any violators are 17 years of age or under, their guardians would be notified. Downtown signage update, we will need to take a look at this just because we actually do have a lot of signs in our downtown that say no bikes or skateboards on our sidewalk, but people just don't see them. So we're going to have to look at that, or we can't expect our residents to really look in or know where the overlay district is. So one of the ideas that has been discussed a little bit is maybe doing those little concrete stickers that the Business Alliance uses to navigate people. So if you can imagine coming into the overlay district, you just put a little sticker on the sidewalk saying, you know, you're to the effect that you need to dismount or be on a bike lane. Education will be a big part of this to start because we do actually get a lot of calls from people to our police department saying, hey, I want to buy my kid an e-bike of some sort. What are the rules and regulations? So we really do need to inform them of this. So, you know, before this goes to council, I think we can pretty easily have a website that is created and live, and then a brochure. The officers would carry around this brochure basically as they see anyone who's violating anything. If it's not too egregious, it's just, hey, we have this new bike policy in place. Here are the rules and regulations, and lead them to the website. And then the last thing that I will mention is that this will need to be updated. We are going to learn more information. There's going to be new devices that come out. I know some companies in my research, they are intentionally designing devices to get around regulations and kind of fit in. And then also there could potentially be state laws. So we will need to update this, maybe even potentially before next summer. So, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Ed, I'll let you speak first because you had raised your hand first. So go ahead, Mr. Bessner.
Okay, thank you, Chair Weber. Thank you, Derek. Yeah, this all looks good, and quite honestly, this last slide answered a lot of my questions, and I'm not trying to get in the weeds on this, but for those that are under 18, meaning 17 or under, like you stated there, are those parents going to be responsible for those fines, or does this just turn into more of a state issue where the 17-year-old or under would just lose their license if they didn't follow the law and pay the fines? That was one of my questions.
Hello. Hi, I'm Tim Okasik. I'm the commander of the Special Services Unit, the police department. Essentially, the ticket would be issued to the juvenile. They would be the ones responsible for it. So if that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. It's just being under 18. I wasn't sure if this was going to turn into a responsibility of the parent, but I'll leave that in your hands. And then my second question, again, not trying to get too far into, but what if one of these bikes hits a pedestrian? Is there any kind of insurance issue that might be out there in the long run, or is this just the way the Illinois law is working right now?
I'm sorry, you're going to cut out a little bit. Could you repeat that?
My question was, what if one of these bikes hits a pedestrian, say downtown or something? I know it sounds like we're following the state of Illinois law, but is there an insurance thing out there eventually that the state might have to issue, or I guess what happens?
Yes, so for most of the classifications for these gas-powered bikes and e-motos, they're required to have insurance because they're treated almost essentially like a motor vehicle where they would have to have registration and they would have to have insurance. So if they're involved in an accident, they would have to have insurance.
That's perfect. And then the last question was just based on what happens to those that are under 16, because quite right now I haven't really been, distracted or hassled by it, but I know just in our subdivision alone, it looks like there's kids driving around on these power scooters or bikes that are under 16 for sure.
Right. So if someone is, say, an instance happens where you have to be at least 16, and we find someone who's 15 or 14 riding a bike, they would be cited under the subsection that says essentially they're not old enough to be riding the bike, or the e-moto or the gas-powered bike. So whichever subsection they would be violating due to their age is what they would be cited under.
So everybody will be on the lookout for that, I guess is the question.
Sure, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks for your presentation, Derek. Two questions. Gas-powered mini bikes, does that fall under one of these categories? And if so, which one?
Yeah, I think it would fall either one, a lot of them, more of them are electric, so it could be an e-motor. We do have the definition in there for the gas-powered, and then it could also fall under a moped.
Okay, and are there state laws that apply to gas-powered mini bikes? Is there an age restriction with the gas? I'm just seeing a big uptick with gas-powered mini bikes going through the streets and neighborhoods, and I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the gas-powered, definitely for electric, but we can look into the gas-powered and get back to you.
And then the next question is, I see you have a fines of $25, $50. It's kind of an escalating fine. Is there a situation where if you have just this chronic repeat offender where you can confiscate the actual mini bike or whatever and have a conversation with mom and dad about safety and things like that? Is that an option?
So we don't have a confiscation aspect built in, but there's a fourth tier to that fine structure where this ordinance obviously is intended to educate and gain voluntary compliance from the community, because working in my, we field, you'd be surprised how many calls we actually field from parents that just, they don't know the rules, they don't know what the state, how they regulate this. So the majority of these violations just occur plainly out of not knowing what they have to do. So the fourth, if we have a fourth or any additional violations, it's a mandatory notice to appear into our adjudication process. So we have a set fine schedule there where they can be fined a minimum of $100, no more than $250, or a combination of community service hours. So if we have say a juvenile who either isn't listening to mom and dad, isn't listening to the police department, we can cite them into adjudication on their fourth or any subsequent offense after that, and we can either hit them with a higher fine or assign community service hours.
Okay.
So that's essentially how we would deal with repeat offenders.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Thank
I'll
you.
just make my way around if everyone has time.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Just a couple questions. The first one is a clarifying question. For e-motorbikes, I don't know if you want to go back to that slide, but is that covered under the, no, sorry, the
You want
slide?
to see the one with, like, where it shows on the road, the sidewalk?
Where it shows the
chart?
Illinois state laws, not that one. The next one, I think, yeah, that one.
Okay.
So, e-motos, are they covered under, which of those categories under state laws? Are they 1, 2, 3, or 4?
The e-motos, I did not put any one of those having a special law. I do think that you have to be 16, right?
So e-motos it's basically the equivalent of an electric-powered motorcycle. So just like you would have a Tesla that would be the equivalent of a car, we would treat an e-moto the same as we would a motorcycle.
As a motorcycle?
Yes.
Okay, that seems like it's a problem that I see a lot in my subdivision anyway, is like 8-year-olds driving those things. So I was also curious if we considered other regulations such as having to wear helmets or an age limit for the e-motos.
For helmets, we did consider that. I do know that some communities have entertained that. Didn't really get a lot of guidance from Ride in Illinois on that. They kind of just said it's the municipality's decision if they wanted to do that. So. And then, sorry, what was your second question? Additional regulations on e-motos?
Is there an age limit for the e-motos and for the gas-powered?
I think that for e-motos, it's 16. You have to be 16 in order to ride an e-moto, I believe.
With a valid license, you'd have to have a valid driver's license.
With a valid car driver's license, or?
I would have to check to see if you need an L or an M classification to go along with that, but I don't recall seeing anything that said you needed a special classification for an e-moto just to having a valid driver's license.
Is there a license requirement for the, sorry if you just said this, for e-motos? That's the same thing?
No, so for e-motos, I don't recall there being just like you would for a motorcycle, you would need a Class M license. For the e-motos, I don't recall seeing anything that...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I just found that section. So for e-motos, you do have to be at least 16 years of age and have a valid driver's license.
For a motorcycle or a car?
That's for an e-moto.
Oh,
electric motors. Okay. So, and I believe that is from the state law. So.
The car driver's license?
Yeah.
Okay. And registration also?
There is no local registration required.
Okay, sorry for all my detailed questions. I see 8-year-olds riding these, I don't know if they're e-motors or gas-powered, without any regard to traffic laws or helmets, and will this ordinance help with that?
Yeah, it definitely creates the structure for the police to at least investigate that and identify if it's an illegal device that an 8-year-old shouldn't be riding. So.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I know this is very complicated, and I've seen that, we have a lot of municipalities around us that have tried to navigate this. It's been very challenging. We have park district regulations, we have forest preserve regulations, and it's going to be confusing, I think, for certain riders as they try and decide where they are as to what rules and laws apply to them. So I think one of the things that I want to make sure of is that we have some education that is going to be rolled out along with this, that is something just beyond having, some Instagram reels or, social media posts that are included in this. And I know you probably don't have those fleshed out yet, but just to be assured that we're going to include that as something maybe that we work with D303 on, especially since kids are, I think, a lot of the focus of what all of us are hearing from our residents.
Yeah, I understand, and staff agrees there needs to be an education component to this, for sure.
Excellent, but thank you very much. This is really comprehensive, and I think it's covered a lot of great things.
Go ahead, Alderman Bongard.
So who are you educating, though? So so Tim, how easy is it to cite an 11-year-old who's riding his bike on Fox Chase, and zips off in the corner, and we're going to fine him for that $25 fine? We're going to get you. I mean, like, realistically, is this policy in place with how complicated this is? Is this really? I mean, you guys are in a tough spot trying to craft, a strategy to make sure we don't have people zipping around, unsafely, but realistic expectations about, like, my 14-year-old doesn't have an ID, and, if you've got kids that are coming from Geneva who are, 10, 11, 12 that are coming on a bike, realistic expectations about how much, what we can expect when we tell residents about enforcement, because, well, we're going to stop them, we're going to cite them. Well, my name's Johnny Smith, here's your ticket, okay, and just what realistically can we expect with this policy? And again, I'm not trying to take it away because this is a really hard one, but, we have this plan in place, is it realistic to think that we're going to really be able to take a bite out of this, just given how challenging it is to enforce it? And then I have a second. So I don't know if there's a question in there, but.
No, it's, if we were to come in contact, I think if I'm understanding you correctly, this would be just like if we were to encounter any other juvenile or any other criminal or traffic offense where if we were to cite somebody or arrest a juvenile, we're required to notify their parents. So yes, Johnny Smith could be given his name as Jimmy Johnson, but we're still going to reach out to the parents. We're going to identify who their parents are, confirm their identity, and like we said earlier, we're not running around looking to cite every 11-year-old with a $25, $50 citation. Our goal is to get compliance And we have the option to issue warnings, and that's one way to keep track of, okay, now, Johnny, this is the second time, Johnny, we came in contact with you. You know, you're not getting the picture here. Then maybe we issue that citation, or maybe he gets community service hours. So our goal isn't to force these undue hardships onto 11-year-olds with monetary fines. We want to be able to get compliance with the statute. So.
Derek, can you pull up the downtown overlay? So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this. So you have somebody traveling from the second ward or first ward. When they get into the blue box, the expectation is that they are to get off their bike and walk it on the sidewalk or travel in the street?
Be on the road. We do have bike lanes. We have sharrows in that area in particular, or they could dismount and walk.
So there's shared space down 64 over the bridge?
There's not shared space. That would be a spot that I would recommend that either someone would go down to Illinois and then cross where we put in the new bike lane this year, or you dismount and walk it across.
Good. I'm good.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this was very well done on your part. I guess my only concern is for the department in general on trying to navigate their way through it. I mean, you look at the different style of bikes and how they could look very similar and yet have different power, and then the different ages with kids. I just feel this is a very tall task for the police department to enforce. So, new chief, don't mean to put you on the spot right away, but I'm wondering how soon, like for patrol purposes, because we understand how thin the department is spread anyway, and this is a very new beast. Like we say, we got parents not educating their kids and letting them ride around Fox Chase. I was in Fox Chase Park today, and there were kids zipping along on these things as we're trying to run cross-country practice through. And it's like, and some of them have helmets on and some of them don't, so you can't recognize them. This is a super tall task. So I guess, and the answer doesn't need to come today, but I'm just wondering, like, what plan is going to be put in place for proper patrol purposes, not in every ward, not just in the majorly congested wards, but this is, I think, is, like we said, a citywide problem. And that's just my concern for you guys. I don't expect an answer today, but I know that this is a very, very tall task that I do worry about.
I think the biggest thing, and you guys touched on it, is education and prevention, and people just knowing what they really can and cannot do. That's going to be key up front, getting that message out to the schools, to the kids, to their parents. Alderman Warble, you asked a question about gas-powered, I think, earlier, too. The Illinois Vehicle Code defines a lot of that. If they're out on a gas-powered vehicle, there's other stipulations that come with it. Licensing, license plates, vehicle lighting, turn signals. That all kind of falls under the Illinois Vehicle Code. So that's where it kind of gets confusing, and I think everybody just groups a lot of these vehicles in together to say it's an e-bike or it's a this bike or whatever. So that's the hard part, and Tim touched on it too, but like these, they have to be labeled. So we know that can be changed, we know that can be manipulated, but under the three classes under Illinois law, they have to have a very defined label with specific font. So and that kind of helps give that classification of what we're dealing with. But we all know that they'll be manipulated. People will make their own at some point, hijack batteries and turn something, from nothing into a really fast motorcycle. So if people are struggling with it everywhere, I don't think the messaging should be, we're going to go take Johnny's e-bike and put it in, I've said it to these guys, on a shed on the east side to store it and then pound it and charge tow fees. I don't think anybody wants that. I think people want education. People want to see that we're doing the right thing and we're thinking about it to keep people safe at the end of the day. We want to be inclusive and invite people to bike around town and have fun, but you got to give some guardrails there and have the safety aspect. So,
Thank you.
And I think, Alderman Folks, also to your point, we're constantly dealing with changing landscaping across everything we do at a staff level. This is no different to us. Just another thing that we have to start figuring out how to tackle. We've heard from the council members that this is a growing problem. It's time to do something to it, and that may require some amendments over time as we start to tackle it and figure out what does and doesn't work. But we are at the point that we need to do something.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And this is wonderful. I guess my main concern was all of a sudden it's here, and you're spread so thin. And that's my concern. But the education part, I think, would be huge for the students, but also for parents in general, too. I think sometimes these are just given to Johnny so parents don't have to parent. if I can say that bluntly, and they can just go and do their thing. So it would be nice the parents to have to be somehow involved in the educational process as well. That's my opinion.
Correct, and that, I agree 100%, because this, I wouldn't say that's necessarily new stuff for us. This is what we've already been doing. It's just because 99% of this mirrors what's already in existence for the state law. It just allows us now with this ordinance, gives us some other tools for, like state law doesn't require the notification of parents, but now we would be doing that, right? It allows us to issue smaller fines instead of if we catch Johnny the first time, issuing him an actual Illinois state ticket and potentially affecting his driving record over the first incidents, whereas here we could have done community service hours. So,
Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman Sokol.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think this is a very good thing. I've had two instances where I almost hit two people because they just go right through the stop sign. So this is definitely something needed. And the other problem is, a lot of people, at least in my neighborhood, a lot of these kids are riding, they're like 8, 9 years old. Okay, and that's going to be the issue. How are you going to find the parents? I mean, it's going to be education. I'm for education. I don't want to find these kids. That's not what I want to do. But something needs to be done. Now, some specific questions. Okay, you're saying that they have to have a valid driver's license, correct?
Correct.
Now, would they then have to carry proof of insurance too?
Yes.
Just at all times? Just like a motor vehicle?
If it's one of the classifications that requires...
Right, if it's one classification, they'd have to have proof of insurance, okay.
100%.
Enforcement, well, okay, that'll be interesting, but it's something that needs to be enforced. The only thing I have concerns with, not a problem, is when you're going through town on Main Street at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and if we allow these on Main Street, they're going to be, I'm surmising they're going to be they're not going to be waiting in traffic. They're going to go between cars and stuff like that. Can we ban them from state roads?
So the Illinois state statute allows them to drive on them, actually requires them to be driven on roads. So
okay.
Okay,
I understand, but that's my concern. They're not going to be waiting in line with the cars on Main at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Which in and of itself would be a separate traffic offense. We wouldn't cite them under this ordinance. We would cite them under Illinois traffic violation.
And they'd have to show their license and proof of insurance, correct? Just like a regular...
It would be like a regular traffic stop.
Motorized vehicle, okay. And also it says in here that they're supposed to use hand signs. I still remember my hand signs from when I was a kid, but
if you're
I'm trying to see that happening.
If you're on like a bicycle, they have to follow the rules of the road just like a motorist would.
They're supposed to use them. And
so if you're on say it's not or one of the classifications doesn't already have turn signals on the device, then you would have to follow the rules of the road and the traffic laws. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any more comments? Mr. Petrillo, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Chair. Derek answered it. I had a question about the signs, but I appreciate Derek's efforts. I think it's a good, helpful for the department. So.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a great, we need to have this in place. Obviously, a lot of municipalities have gone extreme and tried to ban these. I've never been a fan of banning. I do think that the education component is going to be huge, especially for the kids. I think would be cool to work with, D303 and, we have a prior deputy chief who's now, in charge of, the program for the schools. I think it'd be great to have, SRO officers, get involved with the school educations, maybe some kind of assemblies to educate the kids, because the parents, I've had this question multiple times from many parents. Nobody has any idea what's allowed, what's not allowed. They're buying things for their kids that I don't want. My fear is like Mr. Sokatis. I don't want a kid that has a scooter that's overpowered, that he's supposed to be driving on the road, but he doesn't understand the rules of the road, so that's a safety issue. So I think this is a great beginning, ordinance, but the education thing is super important. So those are my comments. With that being said, I'd like a motion.
Move for approval.
Second. So I have a motion by Bongard, motion by Wirball, seconded by Bongard. Roll call, please.
Bessner?
Yes.
Sokaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bongard?
Yes.
Munns?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Petrilla?
I think that was a yes.
Okay, we're well.
All righty. Thank you very much. That
yes.
motion carries. Yes, there you go. Well, I did some quick math. There's 33,000 bikes in this town. I have 4 bikes in my house. I don't have a bell, but if it would be $825,000 we collecting fines without bells.
Just on bells.
Just on bells, so this would be tricky to, whatever. Next up, we have item 5B. Brianna Bacigalupo is going to be making a presentation. If you could introduce yourself, it'd be great to all of us.
Yes, excellent pronunciation. Hi, I'm Brianna Bacigalupo, the city's management analyst. Have been with the city for about a year and have met most of you, but if you haven't met me, hello. Good evening. This item establishes an honorary street sign policy and corresponding program. You might be familiar with how programs like this work or have seen maybe some of these signs, whether you're in Chicago or neighboring communities. This policy is very similar to those. Essentially, someone would be able to nominate an individual to be honored. They would submit an application to the city, which would be routed for review. City Council would have final approval, and if approved, the city would install a street sign in the honoree's name. Typically, this is done underneath the existing street sign name in a contrasting color. So typically, it's like what you see in the picture, brown with white lettering. I do just want to clarify that the existing street name will not be changed in any way. The honorary street sign is symbolic only, just to avoid any confusion with that. And then for the policy itself, I do just want to highlight a few key points here. Like I said, there would be an application process, and as part of that process, it does require a council member to sponsor the application. This is just to make sure that the honoree is vetted and it's representative of the city. After the application is submitted, it would go through staff review, and then finally City Council would have the final approval on that. As far as the criteria, the person honored would have to meet certain criteria in order to be eligible. So some of those are that the eligibility would be limited to deceased individuals, and they must have resided in the city for most of their lifetime. Preferably, there would be some sort of connection between the person being honored and the location of the street sign. So maybe they had grown up in that area or a historic event occurred there, but preferably there would be some sort of connection in that sense. And applicants would be encouraged to work with the St.Charles History Museum for any justification or proof that the honoree has made significant historic efforts to the city of St. Charles. And then just from a logistics standpoint, the designations would be for one block sections of the street, not the entire length of the street. They would be in place for a 20-year period, and then after that period is over, the sign would be then given to the applicant. With that, I can take any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Polk.
Do they have to be deceased?
So at this time, that's how the policy is written.
Yeah, I kind of struggle with that because I think it'd be nice if there are some people who are older and they've done wonderful things in our community, and it'd be a way to honor them that they could still see it and be a part of. That's just my 2 cents on that. And why 20 years? Where does that number come from?
So I'm looking at a few communities that have similar programs. That's typically what I've seen used. I believe Elgin has a 20-year period. From my perspective, it's a good middle ground for being long enough that it offers some long-term recognition, but it's not necessarily like a permanent fixture. But that can certainly be revised if council sees fit.
Just looking for the number. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman Bongard.
Keep mentioning me. I love this. I think it's great. I would prefer not to have to wait for somebody to be deceased. I think that this body will look at each of these applicants closely, and we're not going to get, willy-nilly, but I would prefer not to have to, have somebody be gone. Secondly, 20 years seems like a really long time. I would like to, open to other suggestions, 1, 3, 5 years, whatever, but I I think this is a great way to recognize people who have spent their lives contributing. I'd like to do that in a way that, you know, they can be a part of it.
Go ahead, Alderman Werball.
So, Brianna, thank you for putting this together. This was actually my thing, just to kind of get something going with this for a long time, and you've been kind enough to put it together and put a lot of time into this. So the reason why I kind of went with deceased is to take the politics out of it. So, you know, I don't want it to turn political where we're pulling somebody in, you know, for whatever reason down the road, not today, 20 years, whatever it is. So it's really just to honor and recognize people in the past that have really contributed to our community. The 20-year date, I mean, I agree. I think it's a good number. Could it be 10 or whatever? Sure, whatever. But that's really the reason. Could we change it in the future? Sure. I'm just thinking this is a good start, just to get going, see how it goes, and we can always revise it in the future, so.
Can I have a question?
Yeah, you bet.
Are you open to it moving forward without it being required that somebody be deceased?
I think we start with deceased, and then we can always come back. I just want to see where we go with it. I mean, there's a lot of folks that contributed in the past, especially this building here, Colonel Baker, Delora Norris, John Gates. I mean, there's a lot of people that really built this city with generosity and their time and effort. And I'm certainly open to changing that in the future. I think this is a good start. Let's see how it goes, and we can always come back. We can change, modify whatever we want.
I just think one way to build on the legacy of the city and the education of the city is honoring the people as they were still present. I mean, one thing I take from my personal job experience, I had the honor and pleasure of meeting John Redling and getting to see what he stood for and his values and everything and what he contributed to the city, and how neat was it for kids for 15 years, the first day of school, there was Mr. Redling shaking every kid's hand as they walked into the building every day. And that would have been a shame, like, if the building would have been named for him. I know I'm kind of comparing apples and oranges, but we're kind of talking about educating people on the city and what wonderful news stories we could have if the person was still alive and living and could tell it from their own words. I do get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I totally see where you're coming from. So I'm not discounting where your mindset was. That's just my take on, hey, if they're alive and can be, and you could hear their story from their words, that's just so powerful, in my opinion.
I'm thinking Jim Martin, right? Like council members who, you know, if you have people who've served the community, and I completely understand the intent of saying, hey, I don't want to politicize this, I want to turn it into people picking, but, you know, people who have served, you know, the community, and, you know, a great way to recognize similar to, you know, Mr. Redling or something.
Do you have a comment, Katie? Go ahead.
I do. I have a couple logistical questions or operational questions on this. Like, so, like, how many of these do we think that we're looking at?
So with this being a brand new program, it's difficult to anticipate the number of applications we would get. So at this time, I don't have an idea of how many we would anticipate. But certainly if you were concerned about maybe having a number of the street signs allowed per year, that's something that council can consider incorporating into the policy.
So thinking of a cap.
Alderperson Munn, I'm sorry.
I agree. I think there was a cap. I think we did have a cap.
There was a cap of 2 initially, and I think the idea was if we were limiting it to those who had already, that were deceased, that we would not have the same rush for it if we open it up to people that are currently living, then I would recommend that we do put some sort of limit on it, only so we're not burdening staff with either applications or costs associated with that and creating the signs and hanging them as well.
That was my second question. Are these, so we have our own sign fabricating, are we making these signs?
Correct.
Is
So
it fairly
our rough estimate was
inexpensive?
about $300 per sign is what we're looking at. So if we're only doing a handful of years, something we can absorb into our operational cost. But if we start getting too frequent with these, then obviously that's going to have to be a budgeted line item that will be significant.
And these would be, as you mentioned earlier, these are going to be in places that are significant to that person. So it wouldn't necessarily be downtown for everybody. It might be in, you know, a neighborhood.
Redgate Road.
Away.
Yeah, a lot of different locations.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I think that was. I guess I would just want to understand what the requirements are. Did you
guys want to put a cap and then put it for both?
We'll let everyone keep chiming in, and then we'll kind of circle back.
I'm good.
Mickey, do you have any comments?
I also think it would be nice to not have them required to be dead so that we can, I think that the joy of this would be so that the people and their families could enjoy the honor. So I would love it if we could modify that.
Alderman Bessner, do you have any comments on this?
Yes, sorry, Chair Weber. Yeah, I agree with Vicky, and I believe it was Mark Folks and Ryan Bongard so far in regards to not having to be deceased. And I would also suggest, yeah, if we're going to do a cap, any kind of cap that we all come up with, I think that would make sense is fine. But even if we have a cap, we should probably leave a little room just in case. But not being deceased would be the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Petrillo, do you have any comments regarding this?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do support it. I think at this time it's really unnecessary to get into the weeds when we go to the mat on the deceased question. So I would just be in favor of moving forward as well.
Okay. All right, so with all those comments being said, I think that it's important to, maybe for tonight, maybe the first time we pass it would be that maybe we should probably come up with a cap initially. Maybe it's 2 per year initially, and maybe the first 2 are in honor of the alderman that presented. Maybe the first 2 should be based on deceased people, and then the next iteration we can modify. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
I can also make a recommendation that maybe we do 1 per ward per year. So we have 5 total is the cap per year, and then we can have 1 in each ward per year.
Okay, is everyone okay with that? Yeah. 1 per ward per year, and then the cap of
5
total.
years? 5 total per year.
5 total per year. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
That'll work. Like to modify your.
So you want me to make a motion?
Yeah, is everyone good right now with this? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve this with the modification of having a limitation of 5 per year, 1 per ward. First 2 will be deceased.
We have a second. But I have a question on the motion.
Go ahead.
It sounds like the majority of people don't want the requirement that the person has to be deceased.
We were just saying the
first 2.
Just first 2.
The
yes.
first 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
What if the ward doesn't know anyone to honor?
But you don't have to.
You don't have to.
It's like, it doesn't have to be, like, we come up with somebody, but, okay.
There might be a year.
It won't have to be yearly where it's like,
Not at all. There's no requirement that a ward has to have it.
Okay.
What about the ward who makes the recommendation? Should they have to pay for the sign and the install?
They have to wait. They go last.
We had that in there initially.
I got a second by Bond.
Okay, all right.
Roll call, please.
Bessner?
Yes.
Sokaitis?
Yes.
Folks?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Munns? Yes. Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Static means yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
All right. That motion carries. Wonderful. Thank you, Brianna.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 5C. Derek Conley is going to make a presentation regarding extending the term for the TIF District number 3.
All right, so this is the First Street TIF extension. So essentially we are proposing to extend the TIF 12 years in length. So currently it is set to expire in 2025. This would extend it to 2037. The primary reason for this, just to cut to the chase, is to essentially make our bond payments that we initially issued for the First Street development. Just a quick history here. The TIF was created in 2002. We issued bonds in 2006 and 2008, totaling almost $29 million. This was to go towards public improvement that ultimately became First Street. That was a pretty horrible time to be issuing bonds. 2008, the Great Recession happened. This meant that a lot of the development that was planned was delayed for several years. The bad part about that was not only having the development not there, but we are still required to make those bond payments. So the city did actually do a couple of maneuvers to kind of ease this or mitigate this until development occurred. One of them was just refinancing those bonds to have lower payments on the front end, and then at the back end you would pay more. And then we also did a DTIF re-TIF, so essentially we cut the TIF in half and we created a new TIF, and that other TIF can help make those bond payments as well. So at the end of 2024, we still owe approximately $23.6 million of the bonds that remain. But here's the good news. Development did eventually occur, and it now is at a level that it can support the bond payments. But just the trouble is it didn't happen soon enough. So that's why we need the additional 12 years. I should point out that we don't have any mechanism or possibility of doing a different length. By state statute, it has to be 12 years. Without the TIF extension, the city would be unable to make the bond payments with the TIF. We need to find some other type of revenue sources, and that would most likely have to come from our general fund. I should have pointed out, I did put up a map here of the First Street TIF boundary down there with a couple of markers so you can see where it's at. The process, this has actually been a very long process for staff. In 2024, we presented to all of the impacted taxing bodies. They needed to supply a letter of support. For some of them, we presented multiple times. In January, we did go to the state legislature and get it codified in the state statute. In February, we hired SB Friedman to complete the TIF amendment, which was required, and then on June 5th, we started the local process. Essentially, this is filing with the clerk, putting on the website, various forms of public notification, certified mail, regular mail, legal notices. On July 29th, we had a joint review board meeting. That is basically a board of all the impacted taxing bodies. At the end of the meeting, they passed a resolution recommending approval of the TIF extension. We are all here on September 2nd for the public hearing. We did have one comment from one gentleman, and staff did follow up with him and answer all his questions. September 15th is where we are at tonight. If this were to move forward, it go to the City Council meeting October 6th. To kind of sum this up, again, the TIF extension is required essentially to make the bond payments that we are still required to make. Extending it will extend the TIF till 2037, and we should very comfortably meet our bond regulation or obligations by that time frame. With that, I can take any questions.
Alderman Bongard.
So you're confident by the time this will be paid off by 2037?
Yes.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Alderman Werball.
We don't have much choice after 2037, right? Can you continue to extend beyond that?
No, you cannot. I think you can only extend it once, I'm pretty sure. So, but no, we feel very comfortable that with the increment that's in there every year, we're gonna meet that obligation.
That district should be able to support it itself.
Yes.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
Move for approval.
Moved by Werball, seconded by Bongard. Roll call, please.
Bessner?
Yes.
Folkaitis?
Yes.
Foltz?
Yes.
Bungard?
Yes.
Munns?
Yes.
Spellman?
Yes.
Petrilla?
Yes.
Werball?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you very much.
Fair point.
Next up, we have item 7A. Heather, did you want to make any discussion about this to just kind of get it started, or?
Sorry, this is a continuation of our discussion from the workshop, and this is designed really to be a dialogue between City Council so we can start working towards where we are having City Council direct staff so we can start setting goals, vision, budget for the following fiscal year. So none of the items here today that are included in the draft council initiatives packet are intended to be implemented immediately. It's more of having that dialogue between City Council so staff can get a feel for what vision items we should be focusing our efforts on and our budgetary planning for next year. So as Chair Weber and I discussed earlier today, there is a rather lengthy packet before you. So in order to make this a fruitful discussion, Chairman Weber recommended that we divide this into 3 different meetings and perhaps extend some of these discussions out. So we're not trying to tackle everything here tonight and focus more on the public safety related items here this evening. The second piece of that could be finance related, and then the third and final piece of that could be zoning regulation related. So as long as everybody's comfortable with that, we can just let the council here have that discussion. Staff is available for any questions as they come up throughout the discussion.
Thank you, Heather. So yeah, what I was thinking was to help out with to get the new police chief acclimated to what's going on in St. Charles. I thought public safety would be really good to start with because the majority of the people's comments had some component of safety. So with that being said, I think it would be best to, if Alderman Sokaj, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you. Maybe you can bring up some things that in your ward are concerning for safety or wherever. It doesn't matter to me, but.
Okay, in general, it's speeding, and we have e-bikes too now to deal with. Those are things that, you can always start in the first ward if you want to try, handing out warnings and everything. But I'd say it's the e-bikes now and speeding in our ward, mostly down where I live off of South Tyler Road. And even Tyler Road itself, it's a 4-lane road and the speed limit's 40, and I've seen people whipping by their 50, 55. And I know you can't cover everything. I get that. I know in our ward we have had some of those speed monitors up there. Do you think those work? I mean, in your opinion.
I don't go to the day, but, I'll make a joke, go back 15, 20 years, we put dummy cars out on the sides of interstates and roadways. 2 days later, there'd be empty donut boxes and Dunkin' Donuts coming. So do they work? Probably, a little bit. And then the next day, everybody knows that it hasn't moved. So, I mean, could it be a deterrent? I would say to the younger generation, probably.
Okay.
I would say the more seasoned drivers probably pick up on that very quickly. So yeah, I mean, yes and no would be the answer to that question in my mind. But we moved them around. They moved them around today, placed them based on some complaints or history of speeding.
Yeah, no speed.
The majority of those, just Jamie, we've had tons of conversations on these, but we usually only keep them up for 2 weeks at a time because just like with any other speed limit sign, stop sign, it just comes part of the scenery, and people will just, that's just telling me how fast I'm going. Just the one that's on, North 2nd Street there right before the bridge, that IDOT runs. I mean, that's been up there for years, but it serves other purposes outside of just being there to tell people this is how fast you're going because there's a lot of traffic data, traffic information, so.
That's about what you think of anything else, Mark?
Yeah, speeding, obviously, I think you're the common denominator throughout, but also just pedestrian safety, walking. I know with what's happening up at Foxhaven Square, the ability to get crosswalks properly installed in those areas would be huge for the areas in our ward, and that's a complaint I get a lot, especially with the newer subdivisions, especially down by the springs there in Pleasant Trails. Hey, can we get a crosswalk put in here so we can safely cross over? What's the process of that? Those types of things. I think whatever we can do council-wise to make it more safer for pedestrians to move around our city, walking, biking, driving is a plus. I know you guys do a great job. This is not necessarily just, this is things we got to come up with as a solution more than anything, but those areas that we can promote pedestrian safety, I think would be key.
Go ahead, Alderman Vanguard.
I'll try not to steal. So, our two, or at least I think the two biggest ones, crossing guard presence, because we have Red Lane and East that are right in the middle of the second ward. So, having some sort of oversight in the mornings and after school for kids crossing there. We don't have any police presence. We don't have a crossing guard. It's kind of this back and forth between the school district and PD, and we can't find there has to be a solution because the amount of kids and cars that are just crossing over there, and it's been, knock on wood, okay, the weather's been nice, but the minute it starts getting, it's really hard, it's darker, so that has been something for 4 years that we've been dealing with, and then obviously I know, city administrator, mayor's office, our county board member was here, police presence on Kirk Road, for part of the same issue, but obviously just, that Kirk Road getting, up to Wayne through 25, just how we're going to continue to tackle that within, what the means are for the city, police presence and, issuing tickets is probably the best we can do. So from a safety presence, those are the two big ones for me.
Alderman One, go ahead.
I know you and I have had a lot of conversations. I've dragged Alderman Bongard into them. You know, we get a lot of chatter from our neighborhoods. I think part of that is we have Redling and East in that corridor. We unfortunately didn't get one of the grants that was applied for to do something as far as configuration in that area. I think that there are some opportunities that we have if we're willing to fund some of those things, or if we are able to apply for some more grants. You know, one of the things that's been suggested to me is potentially turning Dunham Road into a 2-lane rather than a 4-lane road, because it really doesn't make a lot of sense to have that be a 4-lane road, and allowing pedestrian islands there for our students. We have 4,000 students in those two schools. We have a road on the other side at Kirk Road that we don't have any purview over. We can't do anything other than pull people over. We can't change the stoplights. We can't you know, change the speed limit. We can't do anything except for enforcement. But in talking with our county board member and KDOT, it sounds like we do have opportunities to do some things that wouldn't require a physical police presence if we were willing. We could put in speed cameras, which would make it safer than trying to pull over a semi on the side of a road that doesn't really have a shoulder. And it would do what everyone knows, which is you don't speed and wane because there's enforcement. If we have speed cameras in that area, I'm not saying we put those in our neighborhoods, but we put it on a road that maybe we don't have the ability to have an officer on, and it's not really safe to be pulling people over on. The fact that it's not safe is troublesome, though, because we do have 4,000 students that go to those schools. We have neighborhoods right across the street that, for the middle school, we're busing kids that literally live across the street because the state's decided that it's too dangerous for them to walk across the street. And that bothers me as a resident, that our tax money is going to transportation. We could have them on bikes or walking, but they can't because it's genuinely not safe. And I know that there are things we can do as a community to make that better if we're willing to put some funding behind it, work collaboratively with our other government bodies, and the police are doing everything they can, but I think we have to do more with the county, lean on our state representatives and our state senators more for more support with that. It just doesn't seem reasonable for neighborhoods to be doing stuff like that. And to Alderman Folks' point with the newer areas that we're building on Smith Road, we're not really considering the fact that people are going to want to walk to Walmart. They are going to want to walk to IHOP. We're not making crosswalks there. We're not making it safe for them. So I think when we're approving different neighborhoods like this, we have to think about the fact that people are going to want to walk other places that are not downtown St. Charles. So adding in those requirements when we are putting in these developments, it's why I pushed in this last River 504 plan. It's why I had an objection that we didn't have some kind of consideration for people to walk across the street to get to Mount St. Mary's, or routing them around in this configuration that it's not the way that people want to walk. So we have to think about how people actually travel and make sure that we're making that easier for people. We wouldn't do that to people in cars. Why are we trying to do that to people on bikes or on foot? So let our city be easy to walk around so that we can get less cars on the road and make it safer for people to walk around. And then I think just being a little bit more open to things that other cities are doing. Mini roundabouts, making opportunities for trying something. You know, I think there are times where do you want to try something and see if it works, or do you want to just keep doing the same thing we're doing and have people complain that they're not happy with what's going on? Maybe you try something and nobody likes it, and then you go back to the way it was. But try something new. Let's see if there's some good results from it, and maybe we become an innovative city that is coming up with new ideas where we can try things like pavement markers, different ways to utilize the existing infrastructure that are inexpensive, but allow for people to drive and be a little bit safer and more aware of their surroundings. So it's about safety for me.
Okay. Did you want to make some comments, just based on what you had heard?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah. So I was just going to touch briefly on the crossing guard situation, because I know that is, obviously my unit takes care of the crossing guards, or they operate under my unit. We've explored a number of options to try and solve that problem, because that issue isn't exclusive to that area. It's all over. Everyone's looking for crossing guards, but it's such a difficult position to fill, because they work for 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the afternoon, and being able to find someone to fill that position is very difficult. We've explored the idea with, merging with D303, combining, our crossing guards and their crossing guards, but that solution on that's not over and done. We're still working on solutions for that. That's just kind of we actually have a crossing guard retiring at the end of the year, and it's one more position to fill that's difficult to get. But yeah, that's the crossing guard part.
Okay. Vicki?
Hello, and welcome to your new position.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of safety things that, beyond what my colleagues have already talked about, that are sort of here and now, mostly in my ward. And I'm afraid a few of them might be outside of our direct St. Charles jurisdiction, so I'm sorry if these are really outside of our purview. But I'm concerned about how kids have been killed, too, in the last year at Red Gate and Randall. I know we've changed the lights there a couple of times, and I don't know if there's anything we can do. So many students go through there because it's near St. Charles North High School, but there's something wrong with that intersection that is, and I think it was probably the kids' fault in both cases, but nevertheless, there's something about that intersection that it seems to be really dangerous. And then also because of all the high school students at St. Charles North, a lot of them walk along Route 31, again, a state road. But is there anything we can do to help those kids to be more safe? I don't know if it's a long-term plan to maybe put a sidewalk along there one day, but I hate to see that walking on the shoulder of that road. Also, some residents have complained about speeding on Dean Street. I believe the police are aware of that and looking into that. And then there's the neighborhood actually directly to the west of the police station. A lot of complaints from residents there, as the force is also well aware of. But it does seem to be a neighborhood that attracts a lot of people sleeping in cars and vehicles that are sort of outside of code on streets. And I know we're already doing a lot there, but if we could keep an eye on that and make that that neighborhood feel as safe as possible for all the residents. And lastly, something that I know you also are well aware of, but the top of the parking garage downtown, if you could be the one to solve that, that would be a nice feather in your cap. Thank you.
Next I'll go to Alderman Warbaugh. I'm sure you have a lot because you
keep it short, yeah, no worries. Okay, so what do I have? The first thing is to recruit and or assign a dedicated downtown weekend community resource police officer to manage and patrol our downtown district. A lot of activity in our downtown, especially over the summer, with a lot of new businesses opening up, many quality of life and safety issues that need to be addressed. So just looking for a little more presence, maybe foot patrol, bike patrol, like on the weekends over the summer specifically, with the plaza, and we got Whole Foods, and I know we're limited. I get that. So, and that kind of leads me into the parking deck. We talked about it. The 5th and 4th floors. And I know the effort's been there. It's tough. I get it, but I'm just looking for a solution, and so are the residents over there. We hear about it, David and I, all the time, and it's different people. They're more different people are starting to complain about it, but it's a quality of life issue. It's a public safety issue when you have cars drifting in there, and I don't know what we can do to solve it, but I just want to find a solution for that. Crossing guards, I know we touched on that, and I'm just wondering if there's an outside agency we can use or look into I don't even know if that exists. What are other communities doing to address their shortage? Because the school district redid a lot of their boundaries. A lot of kids, I guess, are not far enough away to be able to use the bus, so now they have to walk, and they're walking across 7th Avenue, 3rd Street, collector streets, basically. So, north on Route 31. So when you're going north around rush hour in the morning, can we maybe get a no left turn illuminated sign like Geneva has on 38 for certain time periods during rush hour, between 5 and 6. You can't make a left on 38 in Geneva at certain times, and they have an illuminated sign that lights up with the arrow, no left turn. And I'm wondering, is that possible to kind of keep that traffic flowing during certain times? I know it's IDOT, that's a whole different conversation, just throwing it out there. What else do I have? I think that's all I have. Good. Yeah. Thank you.
Did you have, yeah, I was going to ask them. Alderman Petrola, do you have any comments? Anything different than what Alderman Warbaugh said?
No, I just have to emphasize the dedicated officer downtown.
Okay. Alderman Bessner, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I don't want to get into the parking deck directly, but I will tell you this. Over the last week, I did get some information. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is an Instagram profile out there on how they communicate to meet. I heard that from a young resident. I don't want to say too much more and label that person. But that doesn't mean, the world's going to end, but we just have to analyze and get in there and somehow figure out how to get it done. And I'll leave it at that. The second thing, and Chair Weber and I discussed this as well in all transparency, is what's going on with our walkway from the municipal center down to Potawatomi Park. I know, the day will come when we have possible development with the old police station, and I'm not asking for any of that fencing to come out, but currently we have some temporary fencing along that walkway that's really not that attractive, and I'm just curious what the long-term or the near short-term / long-term plan would be for that walkway to shore it up.
Gotcha. I have a couple comments as well. One of the things that I've noticed, I walk pretty much every single night, and my walk always takes me downtown. I've seen a lot of, I actually have video footage of it, but I've seen a lot of younger kids crossing over the railroad bridge. I've actually seen their feet hanging over above Route 31. I see them walk across the railroad bridge over the river. I would think at some point we need to have a conversation with mayor, chief, city administrator, with the railroad about safety. At some point in time, something bad is going to happen, and by us not at least talking about it, it's going to look bad on us. A lot of issues that I see downtown, obviously the parking garage, I've made multiple phone calls to the police, and they come right away, but a lot of times by the time they come, the perpetrators are already gone, so there's got to be a solution to that. This summer I noticed a lot of transients have made home to downtown St. Charles. Obviously, they have been living in public areas, not attractive at all for businesses downtown. I'm sure that there's rights that come into play that are hard to do certain things, but there's got to be ways to disincentivize somebody to live on a bench in front of frozen yogurt for 3 months in the summertime and urinating on the ground when there's kids trying to buy yogurt. So there's a lot of issues downtown, which I think, is obviously very important for all residents. And then obviously with all the speeding, it seems like because the speed limit on North Avenue is slow, 35 to 30, as soon as anybody gets off of Main Street, they're trying to make up time and they speed up. If it's 31, Kirk, Dunham, Anderson, Dean Street, it doesn't matter. They just quickly start speeding right away. So there's got to be a way to help enforce some of that. But like I said, for tonight's purpose, obviously it's 9 o'clock. I just kind of wanted to get some information out there to keep discussions going. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Just a couple wrap-up comments. So I was making notes here as everybody was talking, and there's two different lanes that everybody was going in, and it was either into specific things that they want us to look into, and we're always happy as a staff to address those specific things. And then the other piece was the sort of big picture vision setting items. And what I heard from those were three main buckets that I'm putting everything into right now, which is pedestrian focus, speeding issues, and then police presence. And with those three things in mind, that is what I really appreciate hearing from council tonight, because now I'm starting to hear some of those policy directives that you're interested in implementing. And as we continue these discussions, just one of the feedback pieces I want to make sure to give council is that while we're looking into those items from a staff perspective, as we start to work those into strategic plan items next year, is just to keep in mind the funding that comes along with some of those things, especially in Alderperson Munns, I know you said it as well, but things like downtown dedicated CSO walking on foot, we only have so many officers here. If we're going to do that, that requires an additional person. So we are happy to employ those strategic priorities of council as long as the funding goes along with those things, because those do cost money. So as we continue these discussions, I think this was a really productive and helpful discussion for me tonight to know where I should start prioritizing some of those funds with the directors next year as we tackle some of those issues that are just one-off issues that we can actually handle in the interim. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any public comment tonight? Seeing none, any additional items to make? Oh.
Staying lunch.
Good evening.
Will you state your name?
My name is Ted Luskevich. I just wanted to say initially that listening to the presentation about the bikes, I think I'm disappointed that there isn't any option of a registration program. I think for all vehicles, human-powered, motor-powered, all classes across the board, there's your opportunity to know who's driving and who owns what particular vehicle. And there's also your first point of education. At that point, they come and register. You can tell them their responsibilities, the rules of the road, and everything that they should be responsible for. And I think that would help maybe in them understanding instead of just being gifted this vehicle and they just go out and do their thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Anyone online? Any additional items from Mayor, Council, or staff? Alrighty, so with that, we have no need for executive session tonight. I'm looking for a motion, a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Munn, seconded by Spellman. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
I
The ayes have it. Thank you.